Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, Your Honor. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Let's see, on the record in the matter of the people of the state of Michigan versus Dashi Duncan, file number is 24-02042FY, counsel appearance.
Assistant Public Defender John Lee appearing on behalf of Dashi Duncan.
Can you step forward a little bit, please? Okay, thank you. You're Dashi Duncan?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, today's the date and the time that's set for an arraignment. I have a felony complaint here. It alleges that on or about July 10th, 2024, at the area of 1880 Elizabeth Street, that's in the city of Lansing, Ingham County, state of Michigan, that you did allegedly, contrary to law, commit the act in count 1 of police officer fleeing 2nd degree under the penal code. The allegations are that you, being the operator of a motor vehicle to whom was given a visual or audible signal by hand, voice, emergency, or siren by Officer Mark Fox, a police officer who was in uniform and an officer's motor vehicle was identified as an official police motor vehicle, acted in the lawful performance of his or her duty, directing the defendant to bring his motor vehicle to a stop, did willfully fail to obey such direction by attempting to flee or elude the officer contrary to Michigan Compiled Law 750.479A12. And it further appearing that on or about October 8, 2014, said defendant was previously convicted of 3rd degree fleeing and eluding in the 30th Circuit Court. Therefore, this violation of Michigan Compiled Law 750.479 constitutes 2nd degree fleeing and eluding, contrary to MCL 750.479A4. Count 1 is a felony. The maximum penalty is 10 years imprisoned and or $10,000. Secretary of State shall revoke the operator's or chauffeur's license, and for a vessel privileged to operate shall be revoked for a period not less than 5 years. Count 2, assault with intent to, assault with a dangerous weapon, that's also a felonious assault. Count 3 and count 4 are also charged as a felonious assault. Count 2, 3, and 4 read that you did allegedly make an assault upon, in count 2, Denham Johnson, in count 3, Asante Franklin, and in count 4, Ashley Nicole Bynum, all 3 counts with a dangerous weapon, that being a revolver, but without intending to commit the crime of murder or to inflict great bodily harm less than the crime of murder. And this is contrary to MCL 750.82. Count 2, 3, and 4 are felonies. Maximum penalty 4 years in prison and or $2,000 in fines. DNA is to be taken upon arrest. A consecutive sentence may be imposed under the law if the assault was committed in a place of confinement. I have count 5. It's weapons, firearms, possession by prohibited person. The allegation, sir, you keep your attention towards me. Thank you. Count 5, weapons, firearms, possession by felon, alleges that you did possess and or use a firearm when ineligible to do so because you had been convicted of delivery, manufacture of narcotic less than 50 grams, a specified felony that is punishable by imprisonment of more than 1 year, and the requirements for regaining eligibility had not been met, contrary to MCL 750.22 for F6. Count 5 is a felony with the maximum penalty 5 years in prison and or $5,000 in fines, mandatory forfeiture, or a weapon or device is required under the law. Count 6, police officer assaulting, resisting, obstructing, alleges that you did assault, batter, wound, resist, obstruct, oppose, or endanger Officer Mark Fox, a police officer of the Lansing Police Department, that the defendant knew or had reason to know was performing his duties, and that this was done contrary to MCL 750.81D1. Count 6 is a felony with a maximum penalty of 2 years and or $2,000 in fines. Again, a consecutive sentence may be imposed in count 6 if the assault was committed in a place of confinement and for another violation arising from the same transaction. Counts 7, 8, 9, and 10 are all charged as weapons felony firearm. Each count in 7, 8, 9, and 10 read that the defendant did carry or have in his person a firearm, to wit, a revolver, at the time that he committed or attempted to commit the felony of felonious assault in count 7, felonious assault in count 8, felonious assault in count 9, and prohibited person in possession in count 10. And that this was done contrary to MCL 750.227B. Counts 7, 8, 9, and 10 are felonies with the maximum penalty 2 years consecutively within preceding any term of imprisonment imposed for the felony or attempted felony conviction. Mandatory forfeiture of the weapon or device is required under the law. Count 11 is domestic violence. It alleges that you did make an assault or an assault and battery upon an Ashley Nicole Bynum, an individual with whom you had a dating relationship, and that this was done contrary to MCL 750.812. Count 11 is a misdemeanor, maximum penalty 93 days in jail and or $500 in fines, and a consecutive sentence may be imposed under the law if the assault was committed in a place of confinement. There is a habitual offender fourth offense notice. It says take notice that the defendant was previously convicted of 3 or more felonies or attempts to commit felonies, in that on or about January 3rd, 2023. He was convicted of the offense of flee and elude in the 3rd degree in violation of MCL 257.602A3A in the 29th Circuit for Clinton County, State of Michigan. And that on or about January 3rd, 2023, he was convicted of the offense of possession of narcotic less than 25 grams in violation of MCL 333.74038.5 in the 29th Circuit Court for Clinton County, State of Michigan. And that on or about October 8, 2014, he was convicted of the offense of flee and elude 3rd degree in violation of MCL 257.602A3A in the 30th Circuit Court for Ingham County, State of Michigan, and therefore defendant is subject to the penalties provided by MCL 769.12. That enhances the penalty to life if the primary offense was a penalty or has a penalty of 5 years or more, or it enhances the penalty to 15 years or less if the primary offense has a penalty of under 5 years. The maximum penalty cannot be less than the maximum term for the first conviction. The primary offense in this matter does have more than 10 years. Did you hear all of the charges and the maximum penalty attached?
Yes. How did I get all these charges? I came in with a.
That's a wonderful question. That's a wonderful question. I wasn't there. I couldn't tell you how you got all those charges. So you probably want to talk about that with your attorney in private, okay?
Yeah, okay, you got, thank you, ma'am.
Okay, and so let me go over your rights with you. You have the right to be represented by counsel. Mr. Lee is here from the Office of the Public Defender to represent you only for the purpose of your arraignment. But you have the right to have an attorney represent you at each stage of the criminal prosecution. You have the right to have an attorney represent you if you're questioned by law enforcement. If you can't afford to hire an attorney, you can make a request to have the Public Defender's Office appointed at the expense of the public. Do you understand that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Is the defendant requesting public defense to represent him, Mr. Lee?
Yes, he is, Your Honor.
I'll note that here. Mr. Duncan, you have the right to remain silent. Anything that you say and anything you put in writing can be used against you. You have the right to plead guilty, plead not guilty, or stand mute. If you stand mute, the matter will continue all the way through to the date of your trial. You have the right in this matter to the presumption of innocence. You're innocent until proven guilty. You have the right to require the prosecution to prove your guilt beyond a reasonable doubt at a jury trial. You have the right in this matter to have a preliminary examination so that the prosecution can meet their burden to establish whether or not they have sufficient probable cause that a crime was committed and whether they have a probable cause sufficient that you committed the crime. You have the right to have that preliminary examination within 21 days of today's date being the date that you were arraigned. That timeline will continue unless you waive that timeline or the court finds good cause to go beyond the 21-day timeline. You're currently scheduled for probable cause conference on Friday, July 19th at 8 o'clock in the morning in person, actually via Zoom, before Judge Cynthia Ward. Your preliminary examination is going to be Friday, July 26th, 10 o'clock in the morning. That will be in person before Judge Cynthia Ward. Did you get a copy of your notice to appear before Judge Ward?
This right here.
Very good. Okay, you have the right to proceed beyond that. If this goes beyond the preliminary examination, again, to jury trial, you have the right to require the prosecution put forth evidence at your trial that would prove each element of the charge being brought against you. They would have to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. You have the right to be considered for pretrial release from custody. We'll address your bond in just a moment. Do you have any questions so far?
Ma'am.
You have the right to face your accusers at your trial. You have the right to see, hear, or question them. You have the right to subpoena witnesses to trial to testify on your own behalf. You can waive your silence and testify at your trial if you'd like. But if you decide to remain silent, you cannot have that silence be used against you. Are you currently employed, sir?
No.
What's your home address?
824 Buffalo Street, Lansing, Michigan, 48915.
What's your phone number?
894-7971.
Is that area code 517?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Are you currently on probation or on parole?
No, ma'am.
Mr. Lee, you can, the court will enter a plea of not guilty on his behalf. You can make allocution on bond.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Duncan has lived here in the Lansing area his whole life. He has extensive family here in the area. He takes care of his aunt full time because she can't, she has lifting restrictions and she can't be out in the heat. So we just asked the court to consider that in setting bond for Mr. Duncan.
You said she has lifting restrictions.
Yes,
Yeah, she's got some health.
She had a stroke. I'm sorry.
Okay. And you're alleging, Mr. Lee, that he's the caretaker?
That's what Mr. Duncan reports, is that he's the primary caretaker of his aunt having been the primary caretaker for him after his mom and his grandmother had passed away. And so that's what he spends most of his time doing. And he does not present as a flight risk. He's lived at the same address his entire life. Current allegations and some of the charges notwithstanding, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. I do have a report from pretrial services about Mr. Duncan's pre-arraignment bond information. None of that information indicates that he is a caretaker for his aunt, but it does indicate that she provides or she financially supports him, and that information was confirmed by a call made from pretrial services to the defendant's aunt, Sharon Carter. In addition to that, it indicates that the defendant, which I have his prior criminal history here, which is extremely lengthy. It says that he has an assessment score, risk assessment score of an average of 5 because of the amount of violent felony offenses that were charged. And it's not recommended that he be released on his own recognizance. I reviewed his prior criminal history. Again, he's no stranger to this procedure. But he is charged in this matter with 3 counts of a felonious assault using a weapon, that being a firearm. In addition, he's being charged with an assault on an officer and a fleeing and eluding of an officer. We have 11 accounts being charged here, and there's an habitual offender fourth offense notice, which enhances his penalty to life if convicted of the primary offense in this matter. Again, I believe that the risk factors assessed here are appropriate. I don't believe that he is a candidate for personal recognizance bond, so that will not be granted. Bond will be set in the amount of 20,000 cash surety. While out on bond, you have the following conditions. You're not to use, purchase, or possess any alcohol or drugs unless you have a valid prescription. You're not to possess a firearm or any other dangerous weapon. You're not to be in contact with any of the alleged victims, nor are you to be within 1,500 feet of wherever they live, work, or go to school. Again, those alleged victims being Denham Johnson, Asante Franklin, and Ashley Nicole Bynum. Not to have contact directly or indirectly with any of them. Do you understand what indirect communication or contact means, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I don't know what happened to my card that was right here. You're not to have anybody on your behalf make contact with them. Do you understand that? Okay. You need to report to all of your court dates on time. You're not to travel outside the state without prior approval of the court. You're not to use drugs or alcohol unless you have a valid prescription. You need to report to pretrial services within 48 hours of your release.
How much is my bond?
And I'm not finished. And I will be adding GPS tether with victim notification if possible. It's $20,000 cash surety.
Was that 10%? That's straight.
No, it's cash surety.
So that mean I need 20,000 basically.
We need a bondsman who will post for 20,000 for you, okay? Do you have any other questions for the court?
No.
Any additional matters for the record, counsel?
Nothing further. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. You're all set, Mr. Duncan.
Thank you. Have a good day, ma'am.
Same to you. That was his. On the record in the matter of the people of the state of Michigan versus Christopher Lavoy, I have file numbers 24-02037FY, 03409SM, and 2341764 and 322 SI. Council appearance.
Assistant Public Defender John Lee appearing on behalf of Christopher Charles Lavoy.
Are you Christopher Charles Lavoy?
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Let's see here. Date and time set for an arraignment. Excuse me? Oh, okay, set for an arraignment. I'm going to start with a felony file. I have a felony complaint here, sir, and it alleges that on or about July 8th, 2024, at the area of 1506 West Home Street, City of Lansing, Ingham County, State of Michigan, that you did allegedly in count one commit the act of controlled substance possession of methamphetamine or ecstasy, and that you did knowingly or intentionally possess methamphetamine contrary to MCL 333.74032BI. That's a felony with a maximum penalty of 10 years in prison and or $15,000 in fines. Count two is motor vehicle unlawful driving away. The allegations are that you did willfully and without authority take possession of and drive or take away or did assist in or was a party to such taking possession, driving or taking away of a motor vehicle, that being a Ford Expedition belonging to another, being Mary Thompson, that this was contrary to MCL 750.413. Count two is a felony. Maximum penalty is 5 years in prison. Secretary of State is to suspend the driver's license for 1 year. Count three, police officer assaulting, resisting, obstructing. It alleges that you did assault, batter, wound, resist, obstruct, oppose, or endanger Officer Anthony Dean, a police officer of the Lansing Police Department, that the defendant knew or had reason to know was performing his or her duties contrary to MCL 750.81D1. That is a felony. Maximum penalty is 2 years and or $2,000 in fines. A consecutive sentence may be imposed under the law if the assault was committed in a place of confinement. There is, however, an habitual offender fourth offense notice. It says, take notice that the defendant was previously convicted of 3 or more felonies or attempts to commit felonies, and that on or about September 2nd, 2009, he was convicted of the offense of breaking and entering a building with intent in violation of MCL 750.110 in the 30th Circuit Court for Ingham County, State of Michigan. And that on or about August 23rd, 2010, he was convicted of the offense of larceny in a building in violation of MCL 750.360 in the 30th Circuit Court for Ingham County, State of Michigan. And that on or about March 12, 2014, he was convicted of the offense of home invasion second degree in violation of MCL 750.110A3 in the 30th Circuit Court for Ingham County, State of Michigan. And therefore, the defendant is subject to the penalties provided by MCL 769.12 that enhances your penalty to life if the primary offense has a penalty of 5 years or more, 15 years if the primary offense has a penalty under 5 years. The maximum penalty cannot exceed or be less than the maximum first term conviction. Again, count one, controlled substance being the primary offense, as a felony. Maximum penalty is 10 years. Do you understand the charges right there in the maximum penalty, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you have some rights that we need to go over that I need to make sure you understand. You have the right to be represented by counsel. Mr. Lee is representing you for your arraignment only. You have the right to be represented by counsel at each stage of the criminal prosecution. And you have the right to be represented by an attorney if you're going to be questioned by law enforcement. If you can't afford to hire an attorney to represent you, you can make a request to have the public defender's office represent you at the expense of the public. Do you understand that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You have the right to remain silent. Anything that you say, anything you put in writing can be used against you. You have the right to plead guilty, plead not guilty, or stand mute. If you stand mute, sir, the matter will continue all the way through to your jury trial. You have the right to the presumption of innocence, so you're innocent until proven guilty. And you have the right to require the prosecution prove your guilt at trial by proving each element of the charge or charges being brought against you beyond a reasonable doubt. You're being charged with felonies in this matter, so you have the right to a preliminary examination. You have the right to have that preliminary examination within 21 days of today's date, that being the date that you're being arraigned. And that timeline is set unless you waive the timeline or the court finds good cause to waive the timeline. You're currently scheduled for probable cause conference before Judge Cynthia Ward on July 19th at 8 o'clock in the morning. You have a preliminary examination before Judge Ward July 26th at 9:30 in the morning. Did you get a notice to appear?
Yes,
You must appear in person for your preliminary examination. You do have the option of appearing via Zoom for your probable cause conference. At the time of your preliminary examination, you have the right to require the prosecution put forth sufficient evidence to support probable cause that a crime was committed and probable cause to charge you with the crime. You have the right to continue all the way to trial. At the time of your trial, you, again, enjoy the presumption of innocence. You can remain silent at trial and not have silence be used against you. You can waive your silence and testify on your own behalf at your trial. You can subpoena witnesses to testify for you or present evidence that you believe show a defense to the charges being brought against you. And you have the right to question and cross-examine and confront in court any of the witnesses that the prosecution calls to testify against you. Let's see here. Are you currently on probation or on parole?
No.
You said no.
no, ma'am.
Are you employed?
I am currently on Social Security.
What's your home address?
5923 Hillard Road, Lansing, Michigan, 48911.
What's your phone number?
517-445-6344.
Mr. Lee, is he requesting public defense counsel to represent him?
Yes, he is, Your Honor.
Or will enter a plea of not guilty on your behalf. Have you ever missed court in the past?
I have on the one, I have a failure to appear on the dog licensing and stuff. There's the other one, because I was in the hospital on July 1st, the 30th and the 1st, I was admitted in, I was in the hospital for 2 days.
You were in the hospital when?
On June 30th, July 1st for 2 days. And I missed court on the 1st because I was in the hospital.
You weren't in the Ingham County Jail? On
No.
June 3rd?
I was in the hospital.
Jail records indicate that you were released on June 30th after being booked on May 8th.
Yes, and I went from directly there to the hospital.
Okay, so you were in jail on June 30th and then you left to go to the hospital?
Yes, ma'am.
It doesn't look like that was your only failure to appear, though. Looks like file number 22-03409, you failed to appear December 29th, 2022. You failed to appear March 14th, 2023. You failed to appear on October 3rd, 2023. and then he failed to appear on July 1st, 2024. That is for your case that you have before Judge Flores, I believe.
Yes, ma'am.
For 2 unlicensed dogs. And I
Yes,
also
sir.
have, also have 2 other files, people of the city of Lansing, I believe these are, versus Christopher Charles Lavoy. One is for your failure to appear for a ticket. I have a license plate unlawful use and a motor vehicle unsecured spilled load on roadway that you were supposed to be before Judge Flores on, and you never appeared. So those matters will be reset for pretrial before Judge Flores. It's gonna be July 29th, 9:30 for all 3 of those files, okay?
Thank you.
And now back to the felony matter. Court will enter a plea of not guilty on his behalf. You can make allocution, counsel.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Lavoy has several theft-related convictions in his history. He has spent on 2 different occasions, he has spent time in the MDOC in 1998 years, and in 2014, he was sentenced to a term of 3 to 15 years. He reports that he has had no contact with and/or charges since his release from the last conviction that he served time for. That was a home invasion second. He reports that he has lived here in Lansing his whole life, has extensive family here, and intends to participate in these proceedings. We would ask the court to consider that. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, well, unfortunately, he must have forgot that he has a pending felony case in the 56A District Court, it says here. Bench warrant was issued back on April 5th.
What is this?
Do you have a pending case in the 56A District Court, sir?
What is 56A?
You probably should know better than I do, to be honest with you. I'm in 54A. Do you have another pending case for police officer resisting, obstructing, oppose?
Oh, there's one in Eaton County, yes.
Okay, yeah, that sounds like 56A because I'm 54B and I'm 1 county up. You remember that
Right.
now?
Yes,
Did you
ma'am.
forget to tell you forgot to tell the attorney about that?
I thought it was already assumed. I didn't know.
Well, yeah, you're on bond right now on that. Actually, there's a bench warrant for you.
I thought I was on bond.
So you would currently be out on bond when allegedly picking up these new cases then, correct?
Yes.
Important information to share with your attorney.
I apologize.
That information was provided to the court by way of the bond report that I'm reviewing. A bond report also indicates that, of course, he has 2 or more qualifying failure to appears, which enhances his flight risk factors. It also indicates under the recommendation that there's a concern about the protection to the public under MCLA 765.6. Because again, the defendant was currently out with pending criminal charges when these allegations occurred. There's a record of non-appearance to court proceedings or flight to avoid prosecution. There is risk factors that were being indicated: escalation of violence or risk taking over time. It also says that people are respectfully requesting 25,000 cash surety bond with GPS tether to minimize flight risk. Defendant is alleged to have stolen a vehicle out of a residential driveway and running on foot from officers for a significant amount of time, or being apprehended while hiding in a wooded area. Defendant is alleged to have had the victim's keys on his person, as well as the victim's husband's ID, in addition to 8 grams of methamphetamine. Defendant's criminal history spans 25 pages long and includes multiple warrants and prior convictions for theft, breaking and entering, and other related offenses. And he reveals ties to the state of Ohio. I believe the bond recommendation is appropriate. Bond will be set in the amount of 25,000 cash surety with GPS tether. While out on bond, you have the following conditions. You're not to use, purchase, or possess drugs or alcohol unless you have a valid prescription. You're not to possess a firearm or any other dangerous weapon. You're not to travel outside the state without prior approval of the court. You must report to pretrial services within 48 hours of your release. And you're not to have contact directly or indirectly with the alleged victims in this matter. Again, the only named victim I see here is the victim of the motor vehicle unlawful driving away, that being a Mary Thompson. Do you have any questions so far? Do you have any questions, sir?
No, ma'am. Is there a way to combine with a little bit adjusted lower? Cause that's kind of extreme, don't you think?
Were you paying attention to what I read?
Yeah.
Did you hear what I read? Oh, do you disagree that you have a pending felony that you're on bench warrant for because you didn't show up to court?
I did.
Okay, you have a 25-page long criminal history. Your bond should be higher than that. And I would have gone higher, but they only request 25,000, and that's what it is with GPS tether. Any other questions that you have?
Have a nice day. Thank you. Yeah,
I decide when we're done, and I didn't say we were done. I asked you, did you have any other questions?
Ma'am, I'm sorry. I apologize.
Thank you. File number 234176421. Bond is set in the amount of $300 cash only. Bond in file number 22-03409. Bond is set in the amount of $300 cash only. And file number 23417645522. Bond is set at $300 cash. Do you have any questions about those bonds?
Ma'am.
You have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, on the record in the matter of the people of the state of Michigan versus Connelly, Carolyn, file number 24-02041, counsel appearance.
Assistant Public Defender John Lee appearing on behalf of Connelly George Carolyn.
Okay, are you Mr. Carolyn?
Yes, ma'am, Your Honor, I am.
Okay, today's the date set for arraignment. On this file, I have a misdemeanor complaint. It alleges that on or about July 10th, 2024, at the area of 3601 Bayview Drive, apartment 59, city of Lansing, Ingham County, state of Michigan, you did allegedly in count 1 commit the act of domestic violence aggravated. The allegations is that you did make an assault upon an Alicia Engler, an individual with whom you had a dating relation, without a weapon, and did inflict serious or aggravated injury upon her, but without intending to commit murder or to inflict great bodily harm less than murder. Count one is a misdemeanor with the maximum penalty of 1 year and or $1,000 in fines. A consecutive sentence may be imposed under the law if the assault was committed in a place of confinement. Do you understand the charge and the maximum penalty, sir?
Yes, ma'am, Your Honor, I do.
Very good. Okay, you have the right to be represented by counsel. Mr. Lee is representing you today for the purposes of your arraignment only. You have the right to be represented by an attorney at every court appearance, and you have the right to be represented if you're questioned by law enforcement. If you can't afford to hire an attorney, you can make a request to have the public defender's office appointed to represent you at the expense of the public. You understand your right to counsel?
Yes, Your Honor, I do.
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say and anything you put in writing can be used against you. You have the right to plead guilty. You can plead not guilty or you can stand mute. If you stand mute, the matter will continue all the way through to trial. You have the right to jury trial. You have the right to the presumption of innocence. So you're innocent until proven guilty. You have the right to require the prosecution to prove your guilt at your jury trial. They would have to prove each element of the charge being brought against you beyond a reasonable doubt. You have the right to remain silent at that trial and not have silence be used against you. You can waive your silence and testify for yourself if you like. You can call witnesses to testify on your behalf at your trial or present evidence you think show a defense to these charges. You also have the right to see, hear, or question in court any other witnesses the prosecution intends to call against you. Do you have any questions about those rights?
No, ma'am, I do not have any questions about that.
Thank you. You're currently scheduled for pretrial conference before Judge Cynthia Ward on July 30th at 9 o'clock in the morning. Did you get your notice to appear for Judge Ward?
Yes, ma'am, I have that.
Okay, you can appear in person or you have the option of appearing via Zoom. Is he requesting court-appointed counsel, Mr. Lee?
Yes, he is, Your Honor.
The court is going to enter a plea of not guilty on your behalf. Are you currently employed?
Yes, ma'am, I am, Your Honor.
Where are you employed?
I work for a contractor named Tim Farmer, and Custom Home Repairs is his business. I'm also a substitute teacher, which I've been doing for 24 years.
What's your home address?
Ma'am, I'm currently homeless.
What's your phone number?
Ma'am, the alleged victim took my phone yesterday and thinks she disposed of it. But I do not have a telephone.
What's your phone number?
My phone number is 517-281-5518. But again, I do not have that phone any longer. It's been disposed of.
I didn't ask you were you in possession of your phone. I asked you what your phone number was. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you currently on probation or on parole?
Ma'am, Your Honor, I'm not.
Have you missed court before?
No, ma'am, I've never missed a court date. Well, pardon me, let me recant that statement. I have had child support issues with, and I have done some county time for child support issues with a miscommunication and not seeing my friend of the court representative.
Mr. Lee, you can make allocution.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Carolyn reports that he has some experience with the criminal justice system in that he has 2 convictions here in Ingham County, both for operating while intoxicated, the last conviction being some 10 years ago in 2012. He also reports that he had a more recent encounter with the criminal justice system and was found guilty of disturbing the peace in Macasta in 2023. This is the first charge that there is an aspect of violence. We asked the court to consider that, and we asked the court to consider that he is a lifelong resident of the Lansing area. His mom is here in the area and is a full-time employee, does some substitute teaching, and intends to participate in these proceedings, Your Honor.
What does his mom being in the area has to do with his risk factors?
Well, she's a primary support structure for him, and he doesn't, it's less likely he's going to leave the area. He's homeless right now, so she's kind of his go-to person.
Looks like pretrial services reached out to her. She says she has no clue where he's living and she's unable to verify any of his address or employment information. So it doesn't sound like she's his primary support structure, but he's pretty adult. So, and he works supposedly more than one job. I don't see why his mom would have to be the person to take care of him anyways. Let's see here. The bond or the pretrial report not only indicates that information about his mother, but his risk assessment is average because this is a violent felony offense. Being an aggravated domestic assault that's being charged. They're not recommending a release on his own recognizance. I don't even have an address where I can release him to. That's my primary concern. I don't have a place to send him mail. That enhances your likelihood of being a flight risk if you don't know where we can send your mail. Where are you gonna sleep, sir?
I have been staying at the Mission and on Michigan Avenue.
Bond is set at 2,500 personal recognizance. While out on bond, you have the following conditions. You're not to have contact directly or indirectly with Alicia Engler. You're not to be within 1,500 feet of Alicia Engler. You understand that?
Yes, ma'am, Your Honor, I do.
You're not to be at wherever she lives, wherever she works, wherever she goes to school. You're not to use, purchase, or possess drugs or alcohol unless you have a valid prescription. You're not to travel outside the state without prior approval of the court. You're not to possess a firearm or any other dangerous weapon. You need to report to all of your court dates, which I don't see where you have a history of failure to appear. So you have your notice to appear for your next court date, sir?
Yes, ma'am, I do have that.
Okay, then you need to appear for all your future court dates, and that's all of my bond conditions. Do you have any questions at this time?
Yes, Your Honor, I did have one question. I was a little confused. I'm just double checking to make sure this is a misdemeanor charge. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, super. Thank you very much, ma'am. I appreciate your time today, Your Honor.
Thank you. You're all set.
Thank you.
Harris, on the record in the matter of the people of the state of Michigan versus, actually, this might be city of Lansing. People of the city of Lansing versus Bobby Joe Harris. File number 24-02039, council appearance.
How are you doing, Your Honor?
Well, how are you?
Little good. Can I do a little conversation with you real quick? I'm on the term
Sure.
of I'm on the term of setting myself up and picking myself up and getting a job out here in the community. And and getting well dressed and everything else and not doing no more drugs at all and picking myself up and all that. And I'm just like to tell
That's
you
good to
this.
hear. Yep,
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear it.
And I got a little job over here with this lady named Crystal that works at the thrift store over here in this community.
Oh, really? What thrift store?
The thrift store near downtown.
What's the name of it?
I'm not for sure of the name right now, but I know it that she sells a lot of clothing, shoes, and other appliances.
How long have you been working there?
I just started today, not today, but yesterday. I went, not yesterday. I went there talking to her the day before yesterday.
Interesting. Okay. Thank you for that information. I'll note that here in the file, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Council, can I have your appearance?
Thank you, Your Honor. Assistant Public Defender John Lee appearing on behalf of Bobby Joe Harris.
Okay, so today's the date set for an arraignment. Mr. Harris, I have a citation here. It states that on or about July 9, 2024, at approximately 11:19 p.m. in the area upon that's 12:15, but it didn't finish. At or near East Michigan Ave, City of Lansing, Ingham County, State of Michigan, that you did allegedly commit the act of trespassing on the property of another. It indicates you trespassed at the Sparrow Hospital and refused to leave after signing a no trespass letter with Sparrow Security. So this is a misdemeanor, sir. You have the right to be represented by an attorney because it's a misdemeanor. Maximum penalty is 90 days in jail and or up to $500 in fines. Do you understand that, sir?
Yes, I do. Yes, Your Honor.
And you understand your right to be represented by an attorney?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Lee is just representing you today so that you can be arraigned, but you do have the right to have an attorney represent you throughout this entire case, or if law enforcement wants to question you. If you can't afford an attorney, you can request to have a public defender appointed, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
You have the right to proceed to trial. You have the right to be considered innocent until the city proves your guilt. They have to prove your guilt by proving each element of the charge of trespass beyond a reasonable doubt at a trial. You have the right to remain silent and not have silence be used against you. Anything that you say, anything that you put in writing can be used against you. You have the right to have that silence even at your trial and not have silence be used against you. Do you understand those rights?
Yes, I do.
Okay, are you looking for something in the camera?
No, I was just trying to figure out your face. I'm trying to get familiar with your face because I kind of have a brain loss. I'm kind of epileptic and I didn't really remember the sound of your voice, so I just wanted to see your face.
Okay, thank you. And
Yes,
so again, okay, back to your rights, sir. You have the right to confront and cross-examine, which means question any of the witnesses that the city calls to testify against you at your trial. You can have witnesses subpoenaed to testify on your own behalf at your trial. You can present evidence at your trial that you believe show a defense to the charge of trespass, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
What's your home address?
Do not have a home address right now at this moment.
Where are you residing? Or where are you sleeping?
Really sleeping out in the streets right now. I'm really trying to pick up and get more up on a house or either an apartment with this job that I got that I just got right now and save up for a house or an apartment.
Okay, very good. Okay, do you have a phone at all?
No, I'm trying to do the same thing with that. It's cause somebody they did steal my phone while I was locked up the last time. And I just didn't have any phone anymore.
Got it. Okay. He's requesting court-appointed counsel, Mr. Lee.
That is correct, Your Honor.
The court's gonna enter a plea of not guilty on his behalf. Mr. Harris, you're scheduled for a pretrial, before me, Judge Kristen Simmons. It's gonna be Monday, July 22nd at 9:30. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you get a notice to appear?
Yes, I did. It's right here.
Very good, very good. You need to keep up with that because we don't have an address to send you any reminders. And you don't have a phone, okay?
I will really show up on that because I got the paperworks on it. And then and the second reason, I do not want to get in trouble with any court fines or anything else. Cause I did get everything situated the last time I did go to court. And I had everything good and I didn't have nothing else, but now I do now. And so now I got my mind on this now. So I'm gonna put it up on this and get up on it. Yes. Just like the job appearance I'm doing.
Very good.
Yeah, just like the job appearance that I'm trying to do.
Do you have any other cases? Does he have other cases pending, Mr. Lee?
Nothing that I'm aware of, Your Honor.
Do we have anything else to do?
I take that back. It does look like he has cases in the 55th District Court, 2 cases pending for trespass.
That's old cases, sir, and that was cases that they already been dropped.
Okay, this one showed a pretrial date of July 8th, a couple of days ago. I'm unaware of what the current status is.
Dropped that charge already.
Okay,
They didn't provide me a criminal history report for him for some reason.
Exactly, they dropped them charges already, ma'am. Just so I would just like to say that they already dropped them charges. The last time I went to court.
I understand what you're saying, sir.
All right, yes, ma'am.
You can make allocution, Mr. Lee.
thank you, Your Honor. It appears, based on what I have been able to see and what has been reported, that Mr. Harris is not a violent offender, although he is not unfamiliar with the criminal justice system. He has lived here in the Lansing area most of his life, and asked the court to consider that, as he previously allocated himself, that this will be a top priority to him.
Is he engaged in any services like maybe community mental health?
I am unaware of that. Mr. Harris, are you participating with community mental health?
No, I am not.
Okay.
Can I say this? I used to be in some type of community mental health, but since I've been the years back in the day and the years that I been locked up, haven't been able to do any of that or get in with any of that. Yeah, so I'm not in nothing like that at all anymore.
Okay, just hang tight. I'm waiting for someone to bring me your criminal history.
Yes, ma'am. Look, I would like to show you I have been cleaning myself up, getting new pairs of shoes, and from the place that I did that I was telling you that I was finna work at, and I bought these over there at the place, and from the old shoes I had, my old shoes was kind of bad. That's why and my clothing was bad. That's why I just bought new clothing and bought shoes, socks, shirts, and shorts. I have got rained on last night in the rain when I was out in the house last night because I couldn't get to the gospel mission. They wouldn't let me in there, and they just wouldn't let me in, and so I just slept out in the outside while it was raining. Yes, and I just want to keep. I'm a go to one of my family members' house out here in Lansing and try to just pick up myself even more and get in between that work that I told you about and
Yes.
and then the update court dates.
Okay, very good. I don't see anything recent on his criminal history that's alarming to the court. The court will grant a request for $500 personal recognizance bond. You need to make sure you appear for all of your court dates, sir, okay?
Yes, Your Honor.
You're not to be at the Sparrow Hospital unless you're being admitted for some services because of your trespass order, okay?
Yes, Your Honor.
You need to report to all of your court dates. You're not to engage in any assaultive or threatening behavior. You're not to travel outside the state without prior approval of the court. You're not to use drugs or alcohol unless you have a valid prescription, okay?
Yes, Your Honor. And I would like to say I do use one type of drugs. The only type of drugs is my seizure medications, and that's called Keppra.
Okay,
Keppra
long
and
as you have
Depo.
anything that you have a valid prescription for, you're okay with, okay, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. You're all set.
Thank you.
Thank
So,
you. Have a good one.
Can I ask you a question?
You may.
You know, I'm liable to be let out today.
Yep, you're getting a personal recognizance bond, sir.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Your Honor. You have a good day.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Lee.
Thank you, Your Honor, and everybody have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.